everybody, this is Bruce here. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Traveling with Bruce. Please subscribe to my channel today and become a key supporter of Traveling with Bruce by clicking the Patreon link. Enjoy the video. Hey everybody, it's Bruce here with Traveling with Bruce. This video here is something special. I was on a cruise in Italy through the Mediterranean on Norwegian cruise line. I was taking a cruise with my daughter, and we're on the Norwegian Jade, and we ended up in Cagliari, Italy, about halfway through our trip, I guess. And first thing in the morning, we get up, and as is tradition, we head to the buffet for breakfast at the back of the ship, and I look out the window, and I saw this. This is the QE2 coming into port on her last long extended voyage before she was being sold to a group of investors in Dubai. And I instantly knew I had to grab my camera and start taking photographs of this magnificent vessel, because this was a time capsule, and these images would never be repeated again for anyone to see like this. This ship is the last of its kind from days gone by, basically. And I knew as a as an older guy approaching my 55th year or so, I knew that I was looking at the past, and this ship was the dominant carrier of passengers across the Atlantic during the prime years of my parents' lives, and it was always in the news whenever it came to a new port for the first time. This ship is just iconic, and the history this ship represents is amazing. And so as I was photographing this ship, as you can see here, I'm just photographing it as it's coming in. You can see the passengers on that ship, on the QE2, looking at us, because we're much bigger than they are in height and size, and they were watching us as they were being pulled in, and we were watching them. We probably had 1,000 of our passengers, maybe more, standing on our decks, and we were waving at them, and they were waving at us, and it was pretty cool. And they were photographing us, and we were photographing them. But what struck me about this ship was it was obvious, just looking at her coming in, that boy, have things changed, and there's a reason why her days are numbered. She's in perfect sailing condition, by the way. She could keep going for years and years and years, but to bring her into the port, they had to have tugboats guide her in. And at the beginning of the sequence, you may have noticed there were chains basically attached to the tugboats, where they were basically pulling at her to steer her properly. In effect, the QE2's engines are on, but the propellers were not running now, because this ship is incapable of parking itself. And this is one of the biggest changes in the cruise business. The ship we were on was longer, taller, wider, heavier. We had probably 2,400 passengers and 1,100 crew, so we had 3,500 people on our ship. This ship, if it was totally filled out with passengers, it would have had maybe 16, 17, 1,800 passengers and 1,000 crew, and yet it could not park itself. Our ship could be guided by GPS satellites and could turn on a dime. We entered the port and left the port without any assistance whatsoever. We can parallel park our ship, where this one here, no way. It had to be guided in, and that is one of the big reasons why this ship was retired, because you add up all the technology that the new ships have, and to retrofit one like this, it's literally impossible economically to do. And so Cunard Line had to really make the hard decision to let this one go. And you can see here the one of the ship's crew is looking out, reporting to the group inside, the captain and all, the progress of the ship coming in. But they had nothing to do with it. It was all being done for them. And this is the problem. It limited this cruise ship from going to certain ports. They didn't have balconies like we had. You can see a few there, maybe 10 on one side and 10 on the other. Those are for first class passengers only. You don't want to know how much it costs to be in one of those suites. They were tiny, they were antiquated, they were added in the 90s on the latest retrofit. The ship never had those at the beginning. Um, and yet our ship, gosh, I think we had out of the 2,400 passengers, I bet you 1,800 of us had balcony suites, and the rest we had inside and that type of thing. So anyway, here it is coming in. I just kept snapping away picture after picture because I knew I was looking at history right in front of my eyes. I had no idea that this ship was going to be in my anywhere in my future. I had no idea I'd be beside it. I was able to get off our ship later in the morning and walk up right beside the QE2, and I was within 5 feet of the hull of this ship, and I was taking photos right from the dock, knowing that this is a scene that was soon to end, and a lot of people, um, just never would have had the chance to do this unless you were a passenger of the QE2. And as a non-passenger, I was thrilled to be able to get this close to this iconic vessel and take these shots. Some stats about this ship. Its original voyage was May the 2nd, 1969, and it finished its service on about November 27th, 2008. Um, it was sold for $100 million to a Dubai investment group. They were going to retrofit the ship and turn it into a 500-room luxury hotel. But unfortunately, the timing was terrible. In 2008, the economic crisis hit, worldwide recession, and Dubai got particularly hard hit, and so everything was delayed, and nothing has happened to that yet. The ship has been modified. We are told it is still in Dubai. The lifeboats have been removed. The davits have been removed that hold the lifeboats in place, but we still don't know what the ultimate fate of the ship is going to be. It was originally an oil-fired ship. This is from old school days. This ship was originally designed as a transatlantic transport ship, and in the days it was constructed, all of these ships were fired by oil. And in 1986, 1987, Cunard had a tough decision to make whether to retire her or to retrofit her, and they decided to retrofit her with diesel engines. So it was laid up for almost 2 years as they retrofitted the entire engine compartments, and they did a major retrofit on the rest of the ship. Prior to the retrofit, the top speed was 32 knots, and that equates to almost, we had about 15% of that, so that's about 37 miles an hour. After retrofitting with diesel, she went up to 34 knots, so they could get her up to almost 40 miles an hour. But if you did that, boy, did you burn the fuel, and you would lose money big time, the amount of fuel you would burn off. So the ship was usually limited into the 20s, where it was far more fuel efficient, and it made a profit for Cunard. It was the only transatlantic ship left to ply the North Atlantic during its heyday, basically from the 80s to the 90s, until cruise ships really took off in the late 90s and early 2000s. This ship had it all to herself. But as the years went on, she became a cruising ship for casual cruising, tourist cruising. And towards the end, she would be on grand tours. Once a year, she would do a round the world trip for 5 months or so, 5, 6 months, 150 days, 130 days. She would go around the globe and would be welcomed at every port she came to because she represented so much history with this cruise line. There were another series of upgrades in 1992. That's where they added the balconies that we saw a little earlier. They did a number of upgrades, satellite systems, and that type of thing. But at the end, in 2008, she had gone 5.6 million miles, serviced 2.5 million passengers, and traveled across the Atlantic 806 times. And here are a series of photographs I took as we were leaving port, and we're leaving her behind. And as we were pulling out, there were probably 800 of us taking photos of her. And as we got further and further away, I looked around me, and fewer people were standing around me taking her photos. And by the time I was taking the last of my photos, I think there were three of us left who were taking photos of her because we had a bit of a telephonic, or what is it called, a telephoto lens to still catch her. Otherwise, with the naked eye, she was becoming just a little dot. But as we pulled away, I knew that this I will never see this again. I will never have the privilege of witnessing this scene, and I took it all in. I just kept snapping and snapping and snapping photos because these ships they just don't exist anymore as operating vessels. There's the Queen Mary in Long Beach, which is a great ship to visit. They've tried to keep her restored as best as they have or can. It operates as a hotel, and you can go on it and take a tour, a day tour, or you can stay on it. And it's a great experience. It's from the 30s and the 40s, a real walk through history, a time machine. I hope this one gets resurrected and saved as well, but we'll have to see. But here's the QE2 in all her glory towards the end of her days. And thank you for joining my video today. Subscribe, visit our Patreon page, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll leave you with the last shots here out of Cagliari, Italy in 2008. And I believe this is about 2 months before she was handed over for the very last time from Cunard Lines to the investment group in Dubai, UAE, United Arab Emirates. We'll never see the like of this one again. It's really something. Again, thank you for joining my channel, Traveling with Bruce. If you have any questions about the line or the ship, let me know. Drop me a comment if you like the video. I know I've talked a long time on this one, but I had to get all these shots in just one more time. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.